Welcome to the DJ Insider Podcast, sponsored by Amplified Events.
It's the only podcast where we break down insider information from our weddings, experiences, and advice from over 15 years in the wedding industry.
We're your hosts. I'm Mike Kane, owner of Amplified Events.
And I'm Chris Zart, general manager of Amplified Events.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so we're back, and it's season 2, episode 1. And this week, we have some very special guests. We've got Tim and Corina Gehrels. And for those super fans of the podcast, season 1, episode 1, we talked about doing their wedding last year. So this is a couple we detailed their wedding. So welcome to the podcast, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course, thanks for coming. So let's just start with the basics. How did you guys meet? How did you get engaged? Tell me a little bit about that story.
Yeah, so we have a line that within our history could have always led us together, and it just took a while. As you know, we had worked together, the whole DJ thing, out in Northwest Indiana for a long time, and then I jumped ship, moved back out to New York, which is where I lived right after college, for a different career. And then COVID hit, and it brought me back to the region just to hang out with family and friends and you more. And through that process, I started hanging out with a specific couple that were really good friends of mine. And their sister started hanging around as well. That sister just so happened to be Corina. And through that, we just, we spent a lot of time together during COVID, just indoors, going to the beach, hanging out with friends. And it was like a rapid speed dating. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like we really got to know each other like deep and intimately at a very quick, rapid pace. And one thing led to another, and, the sparks started igniting even more. And we,
Yeah, and so then your best friend was your best man.
Yeah.
And then your sister
Patrick
was your
Doyle.
maid of honor.
Yeah.
And they both gave speeches, and I love that.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
All the connections there. It's really cool when you meet somebody and you're like, you get to meet them as like a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then you already know their family, and
Yep.
it's just like, oh, yeah.
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 Did we just become best friends? Yes.
Yeah, and she's somebody that, she's definitely younger. I always thought she was the cute little younger sister of so-and-so. We had really never connected before.
So COVID brought you
And then
together.
COVID, made it kind of jumpstart and happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this kind of theme right now that last year, and people are talking about this year, there's that engagement gap because during COVID, couples weren't meeting. Mm-hmm. They weren't getting together. They weren't connecting. And so they weren't building relationships and getting engaged. And so for the wedding industry, we saw this huge bump, after 2021, 2022 were great years for the wedding industry because everybody was like, let's get married.
Yeah.
All the people who were going to get married in 2020
got pushed
it.
Yeah.
And so then in 2023, there was kind of this downslide because less people were meeting and getting engaged.
Yeah.
But not so for you guys.
Yeah.
No.
COVID brought you together.
Brought us together.
So walk me through the engagement.
So it was my birthday, and I wondered if it was going to happen. I kind of had a little bit of a feeling, but we had breakfast reservations at a rooftop in Chicago, and we were walking to the restaurant, and I looked in his pocket, and I was like, no, there's no box. He wasn't wearing a jacket or anything. I didn't see a ring box. So I was like, maybe it's not today. Maybe I'm wrong. And then sure enough, we were taking a picture that happened to be a video. And then I turned around, and there he was on one knee. I guess he hid the ring in his wallet. So he didn't have it in a box.
sneaky.
He just proposed with the actual
Smart,
ring,
smart.
which threw me off. Because I was like, this would be so perfect. And then I look in his pocket, and I'm like, nope, not today, today. And then
Failed.
no, it was good because it kind of gave me more of a surprise. I wondered, I was like, this would be perfect.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no box, it's not going to happen. But he had the ring in his wallet. And then afterwards he invited all my friends and family, and we had a surprise birthday engagement party, and it was really special.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So you kind of knew something might be happening.
I was like, what
This
perfect
could
timing.
Yeah. And the hardest part was, so they didn't allow any outside photographers. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to hire somebody to sneakily be on the rooftop and capture the moment and something we could look back on. And they said no. So I was stressing out in the morning of when we got to the restaurant. I went to the bathroom and asked our waitress that like, hey, like I'm going to be doing this. Can I just hand you my phone and act like you're taking a photo of us and it's actually a video?
Yes.
And she did that and
She's so
she
sweet.
crushed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
I remember when after like the proposal, I like looked up at her and she's just like sobbing. It was so sweet.
Yeah.
I love that. And you checked, because boxes are big.
Yeah,
Like you kind of,
yeah.
it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
giveaway, and you don't want to spoil it. And so
Yeah.
that's
I
that's
was wearing
really cool.
skinny pants and I was like, there's no hiding that.
She'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I couldn't.
And so then, so you got engaged, you said yes, and then so walk me through the planning process. Start from the kind of the beginning. You found a venue. Was that a difficult process? Did you look at a lot of places?
Yes and no-ish. When we first got engaged, we looked at the Allure on the Lake before it was even done being built. Like when we had our walkthrough, the only time I ever saw the venue before we booked, it was not done yet. It was just like wood was up and I could kind of see like the vision. But then we held off on booking for like 6 months because we're like, well, I want to look around. I want to, check everything else. And
We were also living in Chicago at the time.
Yeah.
And so part of us was like, well, do we do like
In the city.
a
Yeah,
city
yeah. We
one?
debated all of the options. But ultimately, about 6 months later, we were like, no, this was like it's a perfect location. It's by our family, and we trust the vision of what it's going to be, and we just went for it.
Yeah, I think another component of that was the date. We were, having worked in the wedding industry, I was like, no midsummer weddings
Yeah.
at all. I'm not doing it.
You know it's going to be hot. Hot.
Yeah, no. Where she was like, but it's so pretty. Everything's in bloom. And I always liked the idea of a summer wedding. And so we were trying to think about like, do we do a spring? Do we do a fall? If it's fall, do we push for a wedding in just a year after our engagement? So we were thinking like October of 22. And that's kind of what pushed it out from when we first saw the Allure, because then we settled on, okay, let's slow our roll. Let's do a 2023 wedding.
Yeah.
And
It's always tough when you get attached to a date. Natalie at the Lure, she was on the podcast, and she gave great advice that get attached to a season, not a date, because sometimes your venues, they're going to book 2 years out, year and a half out.
Yeah.
And so October is a super popular month,
Yeah.
as I'm sure you found out. And
Yeah, we wanted 10, 22, 22. We didn't stand a chance with that. It was like,
that was dumb.
yeah,
No.
a lot of them do that numerology kind
Yeah,
of thing,
yeah.
where it's easy to remember and it's a fun.
Yeah. That was our dating anniversary. So we're like, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
But then, no, it wasn't in the cards. So then we decided on spring, and then that's what led to like the very first possible weekend during wedding season at the end of April. And we kind of just were like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, you guys were my big opener for that
Yeah.
year. So I did some smaller gigs, but that was the first wedding I did. So it kind of worked out.
Yeah.
So when planning, what were your biggest kind of priorities, if you had to name 3 to 5 kind of things that were really important to you guys?
I think the number one thing going in was the vendors. We knew from the beginning who we wanted for everything. And then we also had backups just in case they weren't available. Luckily, we were the first wedding really of wedding season. So we got all of our first picks for vendors, which was awesome. But that was like the biggest thing. We knew if we had these people, everything else would just kind of like fall together. And that's what we did.
Yeah, I think, having worked in the industry, there are people that I've even worked with, both good and bad, that, helped on that side of things of like, well, I've seen them interact with other couples. I know how they are. And then, she had a certain vision from like a photography aspect. And then I obviously needed Amplified Events to do my wedding.
I was honored.
If you weren't available, we might have pushed it to a different date.
No,
like,
definitely,
honestly,
yeah.
I'm not joking. Like, it was that important. So high quality vendors for us was kind of our guiding light.
Yeah.
We set a general budget, and then based on that kind of fit the puzzle pieces together, and everything else kind of fit in after.
So vendors were
Feels
kind of a top priority.
Yeah.
What are there any other things that were like really important to you guys, or you're about the timeline, the day of, the decoration, anything?
Details were important to me, but I didn't really know what I wanted. So I like hiring a good florist, like back to vendors, was important to me because I just gave them ideas and then they brought it to me. But yeah, details were definitely important. They were hard to do though.
Other major thing, which helped decide the venue, was having our dog Zola
Yeah.
being a part of it as well.
Your ring bearer.
Yeah.
Our little ring
Ring
bear,
pup.
our ring pup, yeah.
Yeah, that was a must. We had to find a place
Yeah.
that was willing to let our dog be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, some places don't do it, but I love when they do. It's,
Yeah,
it
she's-
always adds
She
a
was
lot.
there the whole time. She's a good girl.
Yeah, she was very good.
So, yeah, it was a huge personal touch a day of that. Like, I'm glad we stuck with that and needed that to happen. Yeah.
I love that. But were there any other? Because I think that's a key thing. Is you're planning a wedding. Everybody's like, oh, there's endless possibilities. You can literally do anything, and you have to kind of slowly, chip away at it, narrow it down until you have this beautiful, almost like a sculpture. And you're just making this beautiful piece of art, but you have to chip away to figure out, oh, this is not really important to me. This is more important. And those little perfect little elements. You guys had a few of those.
Yeah.
So the ones I remember that stuck out to me, first of all, you guys did that first look,
Oh, yeah.
which was just a perfect moment.
Which is crazy because, like, you talk about, like, important things that you, like, going in needed to have or needed to do. And honestly,
We said no. We said we
said
weren't
no
going to do
first.
it. Yeah.
and like, looking back, like, thank God we did
Oh, yeah.
because I think that was one of, like,
The most special parts of the whole entire day,
Yeah.
honestly. And like, we were very, not anti first look, but I knew I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then our photographer, after we had our engagement session, gave us like kind of like a book about, weddings and photography and stuff. And she said she highly recommended a first look. And I saw some first look pictures in the book. And I was like, I get it now, and I'm so glad we did that because, it's your wedding day and you're nervous. And I understand why people want that moment of like when you're walking down the aisle. But for me personally, like that first look, it was after that, my nerves were just gone, like for the rest of the day. And we still had like 3 hours before the ceremony. So after that, like the stress was over and I was just able to be with like my comfort person and like go through the rest of the day with that like it was right before we walked down the aisle and we just like looked at each other and we're like, okay, like I'll see you there. And obviously I was a little bit nervous, but I couldn't even imagine how nervous I would have been if we had not already seen each other.
but even like logistically, it opened up so much more for the day.
Yeah.
Because, you get married, like the ceremony happens, you say your I do's, you kiss, you go down the aisle. And if you don't do your first look, then all you do are like your portraits, like all your family portraits,
Yeah.
all your like, and we were able to, cut out about half of that before the ceremony even happened,
Yeah.
which just opened up the night to like actually do the cocktail hour,
Yeah.
like enjoy our time during the reception and like dancing and stuff. So
And if we didn't do that, all that time would have spent just me like sitting being nervous. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
nice. It killed two birds with one stone.
Yeah, I didn't even know you guys were doing that, but then I saw you were doing it. I was like, let me play some romantic music.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude.
oh my gosh.
And it was perfect. I saw you crying, and I was like, oh, that's a cool moment.
yeah, if we didn't do
It
that, I
was.
would just weep like a baby when she came down the aisle.
Yeah.
So I got that out of the way. I was still, emotional.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
All vendors are they're always, you're looking to help create a moment like that. You don't always know what it is,
Yeah.
and the couple doesn't, you kind of figure it out together. And you had with Kayla Niece, right? And her
Kayla
husband,
Niece,
Chris.
Yep.
Yeah, they're amazing. And then you had Wholehearted, right?
Yeah,
For the
Wholehearted
video?
for video.
Yeah, they
We
crushed
had
it.
They did.
Lori for flowers, La
Oh.
Petite.
Yes. We just had her on the podcast.
had her.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah, and honestly, like the allure,
The
with
Allure,
Natalie
your
and
team.
Renee, absolute rock stars.
Best.
You talk about like, if there's anything you could do differently or anything to it. Like I think from a vendor perspective, it was just all-star cast. It was perfect.
Were there any surprises when kind of planning the day, or even day of? Anything that kind of took you back?
I will say, and you read about it, and everybody will tell you like people are going to RSVP and not show up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. Like, but things do happen, and I had like 3 separate family members that were sick that day, like in the hospital sick, something they couldn't control. So that's sad, but it happened. And then some people that just didn't show up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this was like a whole table, like total of people that didn't show up, which was wasted money. And like, I remember we had people after we sent in our total numbers that were like, actually we can come. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we went and paid more money to get these seats. And I shouldn't have done that because I did have people that didn't fill their seats. So that was something that everyone told me to expect that I still just didn't expect, and things just happened. So that was kind of a surprise, I think.
Yeah, there's always a handful, and it's like 10 to 20 people that just don't show or not. You don't know if they're coming or not, and it's tough.
Yeah.
What about like the day of? Was there anything? Of course, people showing, not showing. Anything that was either more stressful or more easy, or things that were like, oh wow,
Yeah. For about so we booked our April wedding, and April wasn't necessarily our first choice. I wanted more of a May, but they were fully booked for May. And so for April, the first thing you think of is just like rain. And so for the whole entire year before our wedding, we literally prayed that it would just be a sunshine day with like full bloom flowers, and none of those things happened. It downpoured, and the flowers, or not the flowers, but the blooming of the trees, it just wasn't there. But I didn't care. And it's something that I was stressed about for over a year. And day of, all of my fears happened. And I just remember looking out at this like monsoon on the lake. And I was like, it's so beautiful. Like I was genuinely just like, I don't even care. Like the little things like that. And I know it's different if you're planning like a fully outside wedding, but I was like, you know what? I don't even care. It's beautiful.
Which is one of the reasons we got married inside at the Allure. So we even chose the Allure because of the flexibility. She had always wanted an outdoor like a ceremony. But when push came to shove, we're like, let's just plan for indoor. If it happens, then we're not upset because it's already like in our internal vision of what's going to happen. And that area is beautiful. Like in the indoor area is beautiful.
It really is.
But yeah, but it was like beautiful and sunny for the first half of the day.
Yeah.
So like for me, like me and the guys, we played pickleball in the morning. Like it's a beautiful sunshiny day, which was great. And then we were able to get like, then it started raining. And then so from like a pictures and a video perspective, and we look back on it, we had some like really cool, moody, gloomy photos and video clips, and then some like beautiful sunshine ones too. It was like a nice like contrast throughout the day.
Yeah.
It worked.
One of the other elements I noticed about your guys' thing that was kind of you did your own vows, which were absolutely beautiful. I mean, as a vendor, like you hear a lot, you know, and most of it is just the same kind of boilerplate stuff. But when people write their own, it's always more funny, it's always more special, and it's always more heartfelt, and it leaves you with this beautiful, you know, moment that you guys were able to create just by being yourselves. And did you write that out? Was that kind of on the fly? Like, how did that?
We had a like date night, maybe like a week before the wedding, where we sat down.
Like we wanted it to be pretty close to it.
We sat down in the same room together, but not looking at what we were writing, and we're just like staring at each other while we wrote our vows. And so I really liked that we did that because I was able to like feel like your presence while also like in my head like thinking about what I want to say to you like while we get married. So yeah, we always knew that we wanted to write our own vows, and I'm so glad that we did. Yeah,
and it was like handwriting them in like a little vow booklet too. And it just added to it, I thought, you know, like it was planned at the like, so we introed it with like a little joke.
Yeah, that's us.
Just because it's us. Like
it felt very you guys, you know.
But it wasn't like forced. It was we did like the whole odds thing. Like, should we get married 1 to 10? And thank God we hit the right number.
Funny how we did that.
We might not be here today if that wasn't the case. But that looking back on our whole day, I think that is easily like the moment that we reflect on. Yeah. So yeah, from a recommendation standpoint, if you're, I wouldn't even say like we're the most wordy, emotional, like we don't journal, we don't do diary things or write each other notes all the time, but like take the time, be personal with it.
If you're comfortable with it. I think we're both comfortable. I know some people are a little bit more private and don't want to like say how they feel about their partner in front of everybody, which I can understand. But if you're comfortable telling everyone that you know how much you love your person, like I would recommend it.
Yeah, it's like your opportunity to like, I don't know, throw some personality into it and, you know, do little inside jokes and show the person in like your deep internal ways. And I don't know. There was like Easter eggs within ours that like only she knew
Yeah.
what I was kind of talking about.
And that's like something I think we were both very good about. Like we were a little bit funny and we said heartfelt things, but in that moment I was not worried about what anybody was thinking. I was talking to you, and just so happened that 150 people were watching.
Yeah,
like,
right.
That really came through.
Yeah.
It felt like we were kind of like a fly on the wall, or you got kind of behind the curtain. And you really feel like you get to know this couple because there was this earnest conversation that was happening that we got to kind of be a part of.
Yeah.
And it felt very real, which was really cool. And that I felt like was a moment where it ignited, of course, sparks between you guys, but everybody there was immediately like, oh, we're in love too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that kind of energy is infectious.
Yeah.
And you can't fake that. You have to really be in love.
It's a wild concept.
It's crazy. You have to really want to get married. But there's times you do these and, we don't talk about it much as vendors, but you could they shouldn't get married. They seem to really not like each other.
Yeah.
Or what often happens is they're so stressed.
Yeah.
Correct.
And they're so nervous
correct.
and everything's got to be perfect. There's so much pressure on it where they're not themselves.
Yep.
But it didn't feel like that with you guys. It felt like you guys were yourselves. You were legitimately and earnestly connecting as a couple. And then everybody was like, there comes this thing where then the group is like, we're rooting for this wedding.
Yeah.
We want you guys to win. We want, yes, they're getting married. Let's dance. Let's have fun. Let's drink. Let's do this,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And that's, I wish I could teach that to couples. You can't. It's they either have it or they don't.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stress and like the more negative energy around the wedding was kind of washed away within the couple months prior. Once things were just done, then like at that point you're just spending the day. Like you already spent the money. You already like told everybody else what needs to happen, where they need to be, the times for everything. And then if it's not perfect, like
Don't let it ruin your mood.
It's not
You can't
perfect.
do anything about it.
Yes.
yeah, and it's like the number, like what do we always say as DJs? If you mess up, the only person that's really gonna know that you messed up is yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like if something doesn't go exactly perfectly like what we had planned in the timeline, nobody else is gonna know.
Yeah.
It's just us. So like control what you can control and then move on.
Yeah. The show really must go on. And the best way to do it is just, I'm going to decide I'm going to have a good time
Yeah.
tonight.
Oh,
And just we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Everything's, that's the best way to have a good time. As a wedding guest, just, I'm going to have fun, be committed. But if you're a couple, like just enjoy yourself. You've planned it all out. You have vendors you trust, and we're just going to enjoy ourselves and celebrate getting married. Were there any challenges that you guys faced in the whole process and planning? And
I think the biggest challenge honestly was just, we talk about the vendors and all these big things that we wanted right away. That was easy for us because that was exciting. That was like what you felt like, your wedding was going to be, and it set a tone for what the day is going to be. And then we did that early because that was a priority. So we did that well in advance as soon as we had a date. But then, you're a year out, 6 months out, whatever it is. And you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Like we still have to like figure out like what typography our sign is going to look like, and our menus and all of our other signage. And you're just like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like a lot until you like, we created a list and it's like 19
And it's
to 40
the
items
smallest
long.
things. It's like table number. Like what? I
Yeah.
have to figure that out. Like
seating chart, where's everyone sitting?
Oh, the seating chart. That is
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge is just
doing the
Do it.
small things that you don't think
Yeah.
matter, but do matter.
just taking the time and being like, oh my God, like let's spend a day, let's spend a weekend.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We carved out a full like Saturday, Sunday where we were either on the couch or like at a table and did it from like 10 a.m. to like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Creating everything, deciding on stuff.
And you just have to decide. Like you can look at 170 different fonts that are pretty much exactly the same and like all of them. You just have to pick one and you just have to go with it. Like it's the little things that can be big things if you make it a big thing.
Yeah. you really get into what they call the paradox of choice, which is
many.
if you have too many,
Yeah.
you're going to be less likely to pick one and less likely to enjoy the one you picked.
Yeah.
So they always say narrow it down to 2 or 3 and then pick, and then you're going
guess
to
what?
really enjoy it.
They're all beautiful.
They're all
Right.
You can't go wrong.
And and like, as we prep for even like this conversation, we were thinking about it, and it's like our biggest piece of advice is just that, like, just stick with your decision. Once you start nitpicking and you're like, well, this one's actually cool too, then you're starting back at square one. Yeah. And so it doesn't matter if you want that like timeless classic kind of aesthetic that's, always going to look pretty years down the line. Find one that's like that. If you want something that's a little edgy and a little bit more of the time and a little bit fun and out there, like, go for it if that's what makes you happy, but stick with it. Just stick with it and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough because you can really get lost in the details, but also, you have to think about the big picture too. And you want it to be, there's always this dream and this vision that you have. Did you feel like you guys had to compromise on anything when having that vision, or anything that like was really important to you that you had to kind of let go of?
I think in the very beginning, before we even booked, looking at all the different venues, I think it was the Knot app. They have every wedding venue in the history of the world. And so it's so easy to fall in love with a venue in Southern California on the beach. I'm like, this is it. This is where I have to get married. This is the place. I'm like, just kidding. That's $100,000. Like you think about, you put the pressure on yourself, especially I know as a bride, like what you imagine your day to be like. And you have these like extravagant thoughts. And I think I definitely we ended up with a beautiful wedding, but it was definitely simplified once you look at how expensive things can be.
Yeah. Well, and it helps when you start narrowing it down and what are our priorities? What's our guide? What's, we're getting married. We're in love. We want to be married. We want to celebrate with our family and friends. And we want good vendors. You guys really focused on, I think, the really important things. And you had just a fantastic wedding.
We think so.
Is there anything, if you had to go back and you're planning it again, anything you would change?
I wish that I could, I don't wish I could say yes. I wish for like an advice perspective, I could give good advice about, oh no, I would, if I could go back, I'd do this. But honestly, like, I think we got to a point, like Tim was saying, like we picked our decisions and we were just going to be happy with them. And we knew that going into the day. And I don't regret anything that we did on our wedding day.
If anything, it's like be better at saving. Yeah. Like before, you know what I mean? Like, like we kind of made these decisions of like, oh, like we want this and this, and it adds up. So if anything, it was just like maybe save a little bit more. It was hard because, you start planning this a year and a half, 2 years in advance. Yeah, you think you have so much time. Yeah. And you're like, you start to save and you're doing that, but like you still have a life.
Things come up. You want to go
do stuff outside,
People's cars break down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You move.
And
and
it's like, oh crap. Like you can budget and think everything's going to be beautiful, all puppies and rainbows, but stuff happens. And like, you still want to go out and eat.
Yeah.
Still have a life.
Yeah.
You want to do stuff. You might want to travel somewhere. Like, there are things, so it's just really like being able to decompartmentalize and do those things, but still be strict on a budget. Yeah. So it's like having a side budget that you are strict with that allows you to continue with the budget that you have in place for your wedding.
Yeah, definitely.
So you don't get in a hole.
Yeah. Is there anything looking back now that you would have spent more money on?
I don't think so. We went with the higher ends of like photography and video. We did the higher packages. And I don't regret doing that. I wouldn't say I would spend more money on that, but where we were, I was happy with. Like those are the things that we have now that like we watched our wedding video on New Year's Eve because we're like, let's finish the year like with the most exciting thing that happened to us this year. Wow. And so we have that to look back on. And I would say I wouldn't have spent more on it, but if I was going back, I wouldn't have changed how much we spent on those two things. Yeah,
your memories are so important.
Yeah.
You have to really get a team that you trust to capture that because that's what you have going forward. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there anything that you would have saved on? And you're like, well, I thought this was important.
The little details, like, and it's hard because I don't regret buying them, but like the small detail things, like we had napkins with our dog's face on them. I loved them. They were so cute. If I could go back, would I spend $300 on something that's going to get thrown away?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
For us to keep
like,
one for a memory of.
Yeah. I mean, it's cute and it adds personality, but it's really not necessary. You can still have a beautiful wedding without all the small things that add up very quickly.
Yeah, I would say, it's more about like what are some of the DIY kind of things that still add a personal touch without like even spending all the amount of money that you need to do to even do the things to DIY. Yeah. So it's like, what are like the actual like low hanging fruit things? Like we just quickly got like pictures of, we did like an in memoriam table of family and friends that, you know, weren't there that we miss and just like printed out the pictures and put them in frames that we had.
Yeah,
you know,
frames
like,
that we had. We didn't go out and buy matching frames. Like,
and it kind of added a perfectly imperfect look to the table because it wasn't the exact same. There was contrast and some things were ugly and it made it pretty, you know, like. So like doing those kind of things that you don't have to spend a lot of money on, but still have the personal touch. I think maybe we would have
done more of
the envelope and done a little bit more of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people are super talented at that. They'll make
yeah.
their own signs.
Not
or
me.
they'll do same. I mean, we just printed our own invitations, our own seating chart.
Yeah.
And it, you know, I guarantee you if we hired somebody, it would have been incredible. But we didn't have the budget for that. And it wasn't super on our priority list. So we're like, let's do it ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of where we saved. Was there anything we always talk about like on this podcast? It's not going to go the way you think. Anything like that didn't go the way that you expected it to go?
The rain for sure.
The rain. Okay. The weather didn't cooperate.
Yeah.
I
I think that I hear so much that your wedding day like flies by. I hear it all the time. That wasn't the case for me. I remember we were like still in hair and makeup. It was in the morning. I'm like, dang, I feel like I've been up all day long. Like this is like, let's get to it. I was excited to go. And even by the end of the night, like I was like, I can't believe it's over. But also like, it was a long day. Like it was a fun, exciting day, but I in no way think that it just like blew by. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to go by like really fast, but it didn't.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that like happened that we're like, what the heck? That wasn't a part of anything.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, delay in the timeline here.
Yeah.
Somebody wasn't where they were supposed to be here. Like one of our biggest regrets is we were doing like family portraits and we don't have a photo of just the two of us with her grandma.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's so silly.
We should have,
You know, like,
that I forgot.
we
that
planned
is-
everything else out and, you know, she's 93
Yeah.
or so. Like, so she was taking some photos and was getting tired. So she sat down. So I sat with her and, you know, the show kept going on and more people taking photos and it just compounded and we didn't do it. So I think like little tiny things that you look back on and you're like, oh, dang, we should have done that. Like, me even like taking the board and having that little moment
I love that you did it.
in the night. Like, I wanted to, I didn't plan on it. It wasn't a part of anything that we told anybody, but we did it at a point in the night where like our photographer and videographer weren't there. And it's like, oh man, that would have been cool if we
Had that captured.
if we planned that and not even because of me, but like it was a part of me that I was able to share with her that she had never experienced. And she came up there and like put the headphones on, was looking all cute.
That was
like,
cool.
like I think that would have been like a really cool moment for photo and video that we
Yeah.
could just look back on. But I mean, obviously we still have those memories and moments that we'll never forget. But you know, just like little tiny things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a DJ, you know, of course I want every wedding to be just full floor all night rager.
Yeah.
And when it's somebody you care about, that you have history with, you're like, I could really do a good job, you know. And I was like, this should be easy because, you know, we had done several of the couples in your bridal party. We did their weddings. There was some other couples in the crowd that I had known and we had either worked with them or done DJ their wedding, that kind of thing. I was like, this should be easy. This is Tim Corina. And it was harder than I expected.
Yeah.
But it was good still because I felt like there was a lot of old and new and it created good moments throughout the night. But it wasn't, I was as a DJ like, oh, this is going to be just off the hook.
Yeah.
But then you came up to me and you were the sweetest, kindest person. You're like, everyone's really in love and we just want to talk. And so you guys killed it because it was like kind of on and off. I kept having to kind of adjust, but then it was on. There was that point where it flipped
For
and
sure.
It was just dance floor the rest of the night.
For sure.
And you guys had
Towards
those
the end,
the 3 last songs. It was just iconic. You did.
Oh yeah.
It was like
Lover.
slow song Lover. Yes.
Yep.
And then it was Mr. Brightside.
Yes.
And then it was our final song,
Love Story.
which is, yeah, I would say top 3 moment of the night. It was probably Vows, then song and like our first dance, and
Yeah.
it was Love Story by Taylor Swift.
And that ended up being the song of the year. I felt like at
Dude.
weddings. Yeah.
It was
Awesome.
You guys were the first wedding that year to do that.
Yeah, she's a big Swiftie, so like I'm not necessarily. I'm not anti Taylor Swift anymore because I can't be legally.
Just having a moment. How dare you?
I know.
She put Kelsey on the map.
So, but like for me, like that was a song I always liked too, and it just felt like a really cool
Yeah.
thing.
It was your
to
idea.
do.
It was your idea to have
to be
Love
fair,
Story as our.
It was not my idea.
It was
Patrick.
Pat's.
It was
Yeah.
Patrick Doyle's idea.
Yeah.
Who does not make like that. Does not match together. But it just we'd sing videos and we're like, dang, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And
it
you
was.
crushed it. Like
Yeah.
the timing and everything. Like getting people out there. It was just one of those moments that like we'll never forget.
Yeah, for sure.
It was cool seeing family, friends all go out there and
Just
sing
like
and
bum rush us and
Yes.
hug us and
create
very
that
special.
moment. As
Yeah.
you live for that as a DJ, but as a couple too. I need advice now you've been through this whole thing that you would give to couples planning their weddings.
I think kind of what we were saying earlier, just there's so many ways that you can go about a wedding. Like, and we debated all of them. A big wedding, local, a big wedding, far away, like destination, elope, like courthouse. There's so many things that you can do.
Yeah.
And we kind of knew that we wanted, our wedding here locally because we had people that we wanted to be there. But we thought about all the other options as well. And I think that whatever decision you make, you just have to stick with it and you just have to be happy with it. Like the amount of trends that come and go in the wedding industry, like I would pick something, decide on it, and then go on social media and then I see something else that I'm like you can like multiple different things and your thing still like be beautiful and be special. So don't compare what you did to what everybody else does. Trends come and go, and I'm sure in 50 years our wedding is going to be hideous to people 50 years from now, but you just have to be happy with the choices you make and just move forward with them.
But that extends to like all choices,
Yeah.
right? So like we always envision, we would have our full head table with all of our people beside us and all the people in our bridal party there to share the moment with us. Mm-hmm. And we had too many people. And because of that, based on the location, you couldn't have that many people in the way that we wanted it. So we had to do a sweetheart table, which we were then like, oh no. And guess what? It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like if anything,
I am glad we did that actually.
it was our time to just like sit and be together. And it's like everything happens for a reason. You could still like things that you didn't originally love the idea of if you just accept it. Mm-hmm. And so it's like if you're on the fence of should I have 6 people in my party? Should I have 7 or 8? Like invite everybody. Like whoever you need up there, whoever whatever relationships you have, like cultivate that. Mm-hmm. Have whoever, because everything else fits.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way to do it.
Right.
But you really should just do what's going to be best for you guys.
Right.
The wrong way is to not do that.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't take. You
Do
have to
think-
take that
yeah.
risk. Yeah. Do what's going to be good for you and what's going to really show what's true for you as a couple. And there's always a way to do it that's going to be more comfortable and more you guys. You guys wrote your own vows. Now, a lot of couples, they feel uncomfortable doing that. And so I say, well, write them and then have them record before the wedding where you guys read the letters
Yeah.
to each, there's a way to do that.
Yep.
And then you just do kind of, or they'll share them privately. Some people do that, or they'll write letters and then at their anniversary the next year, they'll open them up and read them. There's lots of ways to do it. It's not right or wrong. That's going to be you guys as a couple. It's going to be a best fit. But I think, that's a great advice. Just be true to yourselves. Do what's going to be best for you guys.
And eat. I know so many people say that one. I only had like one tiny piece of pizza as our late night snack, and I regret that because that pizza was so good, and I only had one small piece.
That's so funny because that's like our like go-to like as a DJ.
I know.
That's the
So many
worst
people told me
advice
that. I'm like, of course I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
And then you just get so wrapped up
you
in
get
the
so
day, you
wrapped up in the
forget.
moment. Yeah. But yeah, I would say have a late night snack
Oh, yeah.
as another piece of advice.
Yeah.
It's critical. Like that food at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have an open bar, have a late night snack.
Yeah.
If you can.
If
However it is.
Right.
If it's donuts, if it's a sweet, whatever it is, have something to soak up everything up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is true. You got to eat and drink, and you got to hydrate.
Yeah, hydrate.
It's a long day.
For sure.
Comfortable shoes.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Deodorant, whatever you need. Is there anything from your perspective from our wedding outside of like, I don't know, key moments that you just like, I don't know, even like would recommend that other couples do, or something from our wedding that you like liked that is like, I don't know, something you'd even recommend?
I mean, first and foremost, as I just, I got the sense you guys were actually in love. And that's so much more fun as a vendor to work with somebody.
Yeah, I bet.
They actually do love each other and they want to get married. And I'm like, okay, I want to be part of that. That's fun. I generally try to become good, close friends with my couples. And because I know then day of when I'm making decisions about songs or timeline that like, I know the best thing to do for the most part, or I know that if it falls short, that they're going to understand and they know that I'm doing the best I can and I'm going to keep. I felt like I had that with you guys. You guys had only like 11 song requests. You definitely could have done more, but as a DJ, that was easy. I just played them all,
Yeah.
And they were honestly, I don't even think many of them were like must plays. I think the majority were like, hey, these are kind of the vibes that we like.
Yes.
Like we like these songs. So if you want to play that, great. We just don't want to hear these few, couple cheesier ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was super easy from there's couples who give us 500,
Oh my gosh, I don't even know 500 songs.
or give us a huge, don't play or that kind. They just really kind of tie your hands before you even get on. You guys didn't. You just had a few. Here's some stuff we like, and here's some stuff we want to avoid, and do your thing.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, oh, it was nice because they gave me more room to kind of do my thing. But as DJ too, I'm like, well, what if what I'm doing is not working?
Yeah, exactly.
Which so I had to really work to read the room. But it all worked out. Honestly, I think it went really, really well. I always like couples that are easy to work with and happy, and that I know they're just trying to enjoy the day.
Yeah.
That was super key for me.
What about like, was there anything from a vendor perspective that you can remember? I mean, it was however many months ago now. That like didn't go right or didn't go well. That like now looking back on it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember we had to figure that out. But something we never would have even known.
I mean, there was a couple things. So one is because I knew so many people, I got to talking, and I talked about this last season on the podcast, where the batteries almost died in the microphone.
Yeah.
Which our mics, when that happens, it gives off this terrible feedback.
Oh yeah.
That you guys were at our holiday party last week. That happened because I was not paying attention, and if that dies, the transmitter is going to continue to look for a signal, and it makes that terrible. And so I was terrified that was going to happen. Luckily, it didn't. We got down to 1 bar on the microphone, and we just switched them out real quick right before you gave a speech, which was great. I'm really glad you gave a speech, but I was like, oh, hold on. Switch out those batteries. And I just tried to own that on the microphone and just explain, but I don't think anybody noticed or cared.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah. But that was, as a vendor, I was like freaking out because there's like, you guys had 4 or 5 speeches, and then I think even the person given a prayer gave a little bit of longer speech. It was like, oh no, I should have, because normally I do right before speeches, right before intros, I put in fresh batteries. But I forgot to do that because you get to talking, and I was like, I know all these people. Oh, it's great. And that was, as a vendor, I'm like, no, you have to. That was a learning lesson for me, and luckily we played it off and it worked out. You know. That was the only thing. Everybody else, I mean, you had a top-notch team. It was a great venue, great video, great photo, floral, everything was, all the things were in line. And all of your people were all really cool. Like, nobody was rude, nobody was crass. Sometimes people can get forceful with song. Everybody was really nice. We did have a girl come up, I think, and she wanted more middle school stuff, and I was like, well, I don't know when you went to middle school. That would help. You seem younger than me, by a lot, but I don't know by how much.
That's funny.
That's really funny.
But then, I think we played Waka Flocka, and that solved it right away.
I think I know who you're talking about.
But everyone else was so nice. Your dad came up and was so complimentary and sweet, and everybody. It was great.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It was a great day.
Idyllic, and
let's do it again.
Yeah, right. Every year. Let's. I so would. You guys didn't do any. Some couples, they do like every little tradition. We're doing the shoe game, and we're doing a dollar dance, and we're doing 5 slow dances.
Yeah.
And now the bridal party dance, and they do a little bit too much. where your guests are captive. They're stuck in their seats watching all that, and it's like it's been 45 minutes. I want to dance. I want to go to the bar, go to the bathroom. You guys didn't do any of that. You guys did it.
We just did cake cutting.
The family.
Yeah, just the cake cutting.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do a bouquet toss, but the garter toss is weird for me. I think that's weird. So I don't know. Maybe we could have done a bouquet toss, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a strange tradition.
Yeah,
it's honestly on the way out. Most people don't do it.
Yeah.
Definitely, most people don't do garter. A few do the bouquet still.
Yeah, I was maybe we could have done bouquet instead of garter, but then I don't know if it's weird that you didn't do one and I did one. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's always a way to do it. I've seen couples where they do their own merch. They have hoodies, and T-shirts, and snapbacks where they throw out.
Cool.
That's kind of funny.
You get our mug from our our swag from our wedding.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's Amplified Events merch.
I guess so. But guys, I don't have too much. I'm so grateful to have been a part of your wedding and just to be your friends. And thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. You were awesome.
For trusting us, and thank you for coming on the podcast. And
yeah.
Of course.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Anything to talk more about our wedding? It's just a great opportunity. For us, we still look back and that is the greatest day of our life. That was just amazing. And a huge part of that was Amplified Events and your team. And you weren't just a DJ, you were the master of ceremonies. You were the one that helped the flow of the whole night. You were engaging with the guests. So I know you talk about the ebbs and the flows of the dancing portion, but you still cultivated this energy and were just as much a reason why it was a great, successful wedding as we were in our vows and our love. And it was your connection with us and your love and your passion really spoke through.
Oh, good.
And I think was a great reason why it felt so lovey-dovey and so energetic in that room was it's top down. They felt your energy, they felt your amount of into it as we did, and it just expounded it. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad to do it. It's my pleasure. And I try to genuinely care. You can't, you can fake it, but people know,
Well, that's the thing though too, is what was it? We were episode 1 of last season too, when Chris was talking about doing intros and acting.
Yeah.
You sometimes you feel you're acting into this moment and you gotta be big and boisterous. But I was even telling her, it doesn't matter who it is. Half the time you're just in it because it's you're
Exciting
feeling it too.
Yeah.
Especially a couple that you had even met with once. It doesn't matter. You want to perform well for them, and you get all butterflies and you get the blood flowing and the testosterone's pumping and you're ready to go. And you want to intro really loud and well and get the crowd hyped and going. And it just sets the tone for the whole night. And you crushed it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. It was easy to do. You guys set me up for success. Super fun. This has been the DJ Insider Podcast.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on. I'm Mike. This is Tim and Corina, and we will see you on the dance floor.
Yeah.